Well, we've had the conversations about what happens if there's a big injury to this Toronto Blue Jays team, especially in the bullpen. Well, it doesn't look good for Swanson.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here to YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out, keeps us at the top of your guys' page, and gives you podcast, videos, shorts, live streams, the whole ordeal. As well, Discord link is down in the description. A lot to get into today. Erik Swanson, injury, discomfort, whatever you want to call it. We got to talk about it as well. The Vlad contract offer, I'm sure you guys have seen it. We got to say our piece because it goes back to an argument of how much money is too much money for this Toronto Blue Jays team. We'll get into all of that. Plus, a bunch of spring training updates on some guys that are going to have to make a difference this year. Who are they? What's going on? We'll get into all that. But Carter, let's start off with the Erik Swanson of it all. Erik Swanson scheduled to meet with Meister, the doctor, in person on Thursday. This comes after Swanson's experienced right elbow discomfort after a recent bullpen session, which came on the back of the right forearm discomfort earlier in camp. John Schneider says, I think we'll know more after the meeting in terms of looking at the MRI and plans going forward. Doesn't give you a whole lot of hope for Erik Swanson, does it?
Yeah, right. Elbow discomfort is the absolute last thing you want to hear, especially when a pitcher is throwing with their right arm. It usually does not lead to too good of things. And this is coming after, obviously, we talked about how we wanted the bullpen. We needed it to be healthy. It looks good on paper, but again, you look at the bullpen depth, where are we at with that? It's also coming off the news of the Gerrit Cole Tommy John surgery. So Gerrit Cole going to be out all of 2025. Erik Swanson, again, it's the timelines and the reports and articles that are coming out about these two are relatively similar and a little bit too similar for my liking. Yes, obviously Gerrit Cole is a bigger loss than Erik Swanson would be for the Toronto Blue Jays, but that doesn't matter. Injuries suck. We need Erik Swanson to be a good piece to the back end of this bullpen. Had a very good second half of 2024. This was a guy that I was excited for to have a bounce back season here in 2025. And it isn't Tommy John. There's nothing concrete has come out yet saying how bad the injury necessarily is, but when it is that right elbow discomfort, it's usually not that good of a sign.
Yeah, you don't know what it's going to be, but the signs are there, right? After everybody's been going down in the past few years with the Tommy John, like you talked about, Carter, Gerrit Cole this year. I mean, it just doesn't give you much hope with Erik Swanson. And of course, I think what else plays into this is the fact that the Blue Jays have just signed Dylan Tate again. And I don't know, is the writing on the wall there for Erik Swanson? Maybe. And to me, after this comes out, the Dylan Tate stuff comes out, the Gerrit Cole stuff comes out, it just all doesn't look like it's going to be playing into a good outcome here for Erik Swanson and especially this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen.
Yeah, it looks like they're kind of just having a backup plan being created with this Dylan Tate signing. You're not going to go through arbitration, not give Dylan Tate a contract, and be so high on him that all of a sudden you're just going to bring him back in spring training. That means something probably happened in between that arbitration hearing and that signing that was made yesterday by the Blue Jays for Dylan Tate. Looks like it's a little bit of a backup plan. I think that means Erik Swanson, at minimum, probably going to start the season on IL, which is unfortunate because we saw last year how Erik Swanson missing time in spring training, leaking into the season kind of impacted him and his route back to becoming healthy again. It sucks for a guy that, again, went through so much last season with his son, with injuries, things like that. He was hoping to obviously have that very good offseason. It looked like everything was going according to plan. And then a couple weeks ago, obviously, we heard of that right forearm discomfort, which is now right elbow, which, again, could be a plethora of things, but it's not great. And especially, like you brought up, that Dylan Tate sign just kind of, for me, it was written in the stars after that. This is probably a little bit more of a significant injury than we were thinking of initially.
Yeah, so now our attention has to, and as much as we don't want it to, it has to turn to what are the other options now going in for this bullpen, right? I mean, obviously there's guys, we've talked about Nick Sandlin. We think, he's going to be a good piece to this bullpen. Maybe not an absolute integral piece, but I think a good enough piece that moving forward, he'll be all right. Some other names, Carter, Zach Pop, Tommy Nance, Josh Walker, Jacob Barnes, Ryan Burr. I mean, take your pick of these guys. Is there one guy that necessarily stands out to you? I know, in last year, you were a little bit of a Zach Pop guy because his stuff is nasty, but for some reason, the guy gets hit around more than anybody I've seen. Is there another name, maybe, or is Zach Pop your guy? Where are you sort of leaning here?
I wouldn't mind Ryan Burr, but Ryan Burr also behind schedule with some injuries, dealing with some shoulder fatigue. A guy that, again, had a pretty good strikeout rate last season, could be interesting to see in a lower leverage role. But now you don't really have him as an option. Might start the season on IL as well. Mason Flaherty, if you want another lefty in there, but I'm fairly confident with Ryan Yarborough and Brendan Little. Josh Walker would be another intriguing option that you could look at. But I think just based on them handing this guy an arbitration deal based off the relationship prior, the years that he spent with the organization, I think this is just Zach Pop plug and play. That makes the most sense to me. You do get Dylan Tate. I get that. Makes sense. But I don't think, again, you hand out that Zach Pop contract. If there's a situation like this, you have some injuries early on, this guy is out of options. So if you don't start him with your major league team, you're going to lose him. So I don't think this team would go through all the trouble of going through that arbitration hearing, giving this guy a contract through arbitration, not to give him a chance, at least one more shot, whether that is, again, throughout spring training, whether they like it, well, like what they see or they don't like what they see. But I think they would be leaning towards Zach Pop in this situation.
Yeah, and for me, I don't know. I'm so far done on the Zach Pop experience. I think he has the pieces to be a good bullpen arm. But as far as I can see, he has not been able to figure out. I don't know if it's where to put pitches, if it's command problems. I don't know what the issue is. Because when I look at the stuff on paper or video, I think, wow, this guy is pretty good. And then you look at the overall stats, and no, stats don't say everything, but in this case, they say a lot. And I just don't know. I think I'm so far done. I think you're right. I think that's the direction they're probably going to go. I don't like it. I would much rather them go to a Josh Walker here, probably. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to be massive. I don't think any guy that steps into this role now is going to overly move the needle until you find a little bit of a diamond in the rough and see what certain guys bring to the table throughout the season. But overall, yeah, just a brutal situation for a bullpen coming off of a terrible season. You start to get a little bit of the hope back. I know we even talked about it a few times of saying, wow, this bullpen might not be an issue this year. But a couple injuries happen, and goodness gracious, we're back into scary territory.
Well, and that's why you can never have too many pitchers. We put a lot of emphasis on who's going to be this kind of eighth guy, who's going to maybe the seventh guy of the bullpen. How about let's talk about how this puts pressure on some of the other guys throughout this bullpen? I think Jeff Hoffman, that role is not going to change, but now you have Yimi Garcia, Chad Green, and probably a guy like Nick Sandlin, who you might need to see take an extra step, have a higher leverage role throughout this bullpen. Because right now, I think Yimi Garcia is probably your eight guy. I think this has to mean Chad Green's your seven guy, and that leaves Jeff Hoffman as your number nine guy. Nick Sandlin might be thrown in different situations, again, using a little bit higher leverage. So this puts a whole lot more pressure on guys like Yimi Garcia, Chad Green, and Nick Sandlin to have those good performances, because now you have this injury with a higher leverage guy in your bullpen. You have one more guy that doesn't perform up to expectations, or God forbid, another injury with a higher leverage guy in this bullpen rotation. It's going to be an interesting fix, and not one that you want to play with early on with some of these bullpen arms. You don't want to overtax some of these guys that we've seen in the past with John Schneider and how he's managed his bullpen, throwing Erik Swanson a ton. Obviously, might have led to injuries down the road. But again, you're going to have to use these higher leverage guys. You're going to have to use the guys you trust the most the majority of the time. But it's going to be interesting to see now how with these injuries, and hopefully with performances that are of expectation, we can see Jeff Hoffman play like Jeff Hoffman. We see the Yimi Garcia that we're hopefully expecting. And we can take some of the pressure off of these higher leverage guys, and maybe like the Yariel Rodriguez's, the Yarboroughs, the guys that are equipped to throw these longer innings. Maybe we can have instances where we use these guys a little bit more prominently, especially early on in the season.
Yeah, and Yariel Rodriguez is a guy I was going to bring up because, yeah, what is his deal now? We debated it here and there because we weren't sure. Is he going to start in AAA where he can go and get some service time, face some hitters that, he can build that confidence, find the location of his pitches, which he just has not been able to do over spring training at all yet this year, really. I think we're seeing a lot of uncomfortability with Yariel Rodriguez, I guess is the best way to say it. But now it sort of puts pressure on him. Hey, we need you to figure it out because you're going to have to be a solid part of this team. I don't know. Maybe they won't go the Yariel Rodriguez way. Maybe they will start him in AAA. But I think this definitely adds to that whole point and puts that into question now. I think we all have to be debating it and looking forward into this spring training of, hey, who stands out over the next little bit and who's going to have to be our option.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting performance. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how these performances develop. There is, again, now some options, whether it's higher leverage, lower leverage, or in that middle tier with some of these bullpen arms. Like we talked about a lot of these younger guys, somebody on this offense, someone throughout this batting order is going to have to step up. Now you look at the bullpen, you're going to have to see somebody step up there as well. My prime candidate probably is Nick Sandlin. Again, not a guy that you wanted necessarily to throw right into higher leverage, but you have an Erik Swanson injury. We'll see how it plays out. Hopefully, it is just an IL stint, and he does become available sometime, maybe in the end of April, early May. But again, you got to prepare for the worst when it comes to these injuries. You got to have a backup plan for these bullpen arms, and there are options. Obviously, they're not as good as Erik Swanson would be at the back end of this bullpen, but somebody's going to have to step up, and now there is this opportunity, whether it's throughout the rest of the spring training or when they do get that opportunity once the regular season comes.
Yeah, it's prove it time here for these guys that are sort of on the bubble right now. So we'll see who can step up and really make a difference happen for this bullpen. Carter, we got to talk about the Vlad contract. I know yesterday's episode was a great interview. It was a ton of fun. We don't get to do a ton of them, and when the opportunity arises, we have to jump at the bit. And that was fantastic. It turned out to be a really, really great episode. So again, if you didn't see our interview with Irv Carter, make sure you guys do go and see that. It was just the podcast from yesterday. But Carter, that leads us into stuff we've missed over the weekend. And some of the stuff we missed over the weekend is the Vlad contract talks, because we've debated it over and over and over again. What was the money? Would you do this? Would you do this? How much does money matter? We're going to get into all that, of course. A lot of spring training stuff as well happening with some certain guys. We'll get into all that in the third segment. We'll take a quick break. Be right back with the Vlad contract.
Today's episode is sponsored by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the most reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you'll need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And the trade pros looking for an extra edge, the free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's SH5 for 5% off your first order. And that's supplyhouse.com.
So, Carter, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the number is sort of out. I want to say sort of out because, I don't know. This is going to turn a lot of people's heads, this number that was said. And some of you may have seen this already. Give us your thoughts on this, because we want to know what you guys think. Always, when it comes down to the Vlad contract, there are so many people with different viewpoints on this. Let's just get into it. Guerrero broke his silence on what he feels his value is, as he said that the final extension offer his agents gave the Blue Jays was less than $600 million. Round of applause. It's a crazy way to go, Vlad. Give them a discount under $600 million. That is an insane thing to go out and admit yourself. And if that's the case, and Vlad, says this, I think this is such a bad look for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And again, like I said, I want Vlad to be a Toronto Blue Jay for life. But you're putting everybody in a pretty terrible spot when you come out and say this. Do you think that I don't think any player in MLB right now, including Juan Soto, is worth $700 million. Never mind $600 million. The only player in this entire league that is worth $700 million is Shohei Ohtani because of the revenue he brings in. Every other player is not worth near that. That's an astronomical number. And Carter, I know you said, and we talked about this when this whole Vlad stuff was going on. How good is Vlad? 85% of Juan Soto? That would put you close to the $600 million mark. That's still, I don't think anybody should be making $600 million as a player. I think you could sign a lot of good players and build a great team for the price point of $600 million. Now it's less than 600 million. Is it 500? Is it 550? We won't ever know the real number, most likely. But for you to say that it was less than 600 million doesn't give me a whole lot of hope that it was a whole lot less than 600 million.
Yeah, we've had some interesting takes, interesting reports coming out. Like I saw the number, it said 15 years, $600 million. And people are like, oh, that's only, what is it? I think it's $45 million AAV. But it's 15 years. This guy's going to be 26. I know he's young going into free agency, but you're going to want to pay this guy $40 million a year when he's 41 years old. Like, clearly, like, he's not going to be hitting 300. Be lucky if he's hitting 250 and hits 20 home runs when Vladdy's 40 years old. So I understand, like, there's AAV talks of, like, yeah, you don't want it to get like crazy amounts of like $50 million AAV. But at the end of the day, I'd rather sign Vladdy to like a 12-year deal and have the AAV slightly higher than pay him those 3 extra years at the back end of his contract when he's 39, 40, 41 years old, where he's going to be a skeleton of himself. You'll be lucky again if he's an above league average hitter, probably playing exclusively DH at that time. That's a lot of money to pay for a first baseman. And again, even when he's just 35, who knows if he's even going to be playing first base for a long period of time. Like, WAR does not favor first baseman. WAR's not going to favor a guy that's exclusively playing DH. And we've talked about some of these elite guys throughout the MLB. Like, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has not necessarily had a season like Aaron Judge. You can argue the 2021 season was close to that, but that is not every year Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's not Shohei Ohtani. He's not Juan Soto. He's not Bobby Witt Jr. He is very good. He's an unbelievable baseball player, probably one of the better baseball players in all of baseball. You can probably argue that he is a top 30 baseball player in all of baseball, maybe even top 20. But when you're looking at a contract that's $550 million, he said it was just under the impression I got, it was just under $600 million. Probably could have been 550, probably could have been $575 million. And it's not to say that the front office has definitely mishandled this situation, but now, since we're in this point, we're currently with the bed that Vladdy is laying in with, again, been a very good baseball player throughout his career with the Toronto Blue Jays, throughout his MLB career. But when you have seen these inconsistencies, you have seen Vladdy put up, I think it was like a 118 weighted runs created plus season. To sign a first baseman to $550, $600 million, become the third highest paid player in the MLB, is just, it's crazy talk. And unfortunately, it is all because the Juan Soto and Steve Cohen discussions. If you get this extension done before this contract, we're probably around 450 million, which is definitely fair for a player of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s caliber.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've said this before, the precedent was set. The precedent of the Juan Soto and take the Shohei Ohtani out of it, right? Say he is worth 700 million. Maybe he is bringing in that much revenue to your team. So fair enough. I don't know what the metrics are for that. But Juan Soto has set an insurmountable precedent that now everybody in their mom wants to get in on. This is a problem for Major League Baseball. Juan Soto's deal was a problem for Major League Baseball. The hype around it is a problem. Juan Soto is a great hitter, a fantastic hitter. He is a terrible fielder. He's not quick. He's not a good base runner. He's just a great hitter. And are we paying great hitters now? Almost, up near $800 million? What happens when these guys, if these guys break a knee, shatter their knee, and never play baseball again? What happens if, they lose it in year 4 and you're paying them still 10 years worth $40 million, $50 million a season to do nothing? Is Vlad going to be playing when he's 40 years old? Probably not. I guess, but probably not. If he's asking, this is just insane, Carter. When this came out, I know, me and you said it. These are the numbers we were talking about. But, I think you get caught up in the whole free agency of it all, and you want this guy to be here for life. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't think any player's worth this kind of money. And I guess that's all I have to say is just I'm blown away by what we've come to now in Major League Baseball. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah, unfortunately though, like we're at a time where it's not going to get better. This is just how
No,
baseball is going to be, unfortunately.
it's
And
typical.
again, this is all avoided if you sign Vladdy after again, you in theory sign him after that 2021 season. I'm gonna give Ross Atkins a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because that's one season off of his best season, debatably his best season of his career. We'll see how that pans out. Give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there. But after 2022, you see how good Vladdy was. 2023 having that little bit of a down year. Clearly, they just were not confident in Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and now they are paying the price for that because while $600 million, even if it's slightly under, it's absolutely insane. Said he'd take his contract from 15 years to 14 years. It was $40 million AAV. But again, at this point, like you're going to pay, like I said, a 41-year-old $40 million AAV. Not exactly what you're looking for. But now the Blue Jays have made their bed. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has all the power, and rightfully so. If he goes to free agency, I would not be surprised if the Boston Red Sox pay him $550, $600 million. New York Yankees could be another team that does go out and pay him $550, $600 million. I'm not sure if the New York Mets do it after that Juan Soto contract. Then you're going to have a $765 million deal, and as well as like a $550, $600 million one. So unfortunately for the Toronto Blue Jays, I think if it's not the Blue Jays, I think there's a very good chance Vladimir Guerrero Jr. could stay in the AL East. Again, this situation just very poorly handled by the Blue Jays front office initially. Now you let that Juan Soto contract happen. Now you let Vladimir Guerrero Jr. get a little bit greedy. Who obviously wants to be paid as one of the best players in all of baseball. You can argue obviously that part is deserving. The only issue is that first baseman proposition where again he's not going to be that good of a defensive player, and even if he is at first base, how much merit does that really carry forward? So in totality, just an absolute mess of a situation for the Toronto Blue Jays that we're probably going to be hearing about throughout all of 2025 because it's either Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to have an unbelievable season and the narrative's going to be, why did they not sign this guy? Or if he doesn't play very good, you're probably losing him anyway. And the Toronto Blue Jays probably not that good of a team in 2025.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just this all blows my mind, and I guess it all did start with the Shohei Ohtani. It was the first brick to fall, right? And then after that, it was sort of
That's such a different situation for me, though. Just with
it,
the
it is, but it's not, right? It is, but it's not. Before this, I don't think there was a conversation to be had anywhere that any player is going to be getting paid $700 million in baseball. Then Shohei Ohtani, absolutely. Great player, brings in the revenue, two-way player, when he starts to pitch again. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, probably worth it for the amount that he's going to bring in. But Juan Soto isn't a two-way player. He's barely a one-way player because he barely plays the field well. And yeah, I don't know, he hits well. I don't know. This is just insane. And you know what? You're right. You said it. It's just going to keep going this way. This is the path we've all taken now, and we will continue to see more contracts being made that are upwards of $500 million. I just wonder who's going to be next, right? After Vlad, who's the next guy that's on the docket? It's going to be interesting because I think there just aren't going to be teams that are going to be willing to pay that much money. And to be honest with you, I can't blame them. You could go out and build a very good baseball team for that exact price. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. If the Blue Jays pay it, they pay it. If they don't, they don't. I'm about over it, to be honest. I pay them or don't pay them. But if you're not going to pay them, then use that money and go make 3 or 4 big signings. And, that equal that value or something like that, right? You could get 3 Santanders for that price, Carter.
And maybe more as well. And with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., again, the power is just always going to be with Vladdy. They expect him to his play to be able to trend well. He's going to be effective again into his 30s. That's what a lot of the insiders are saying. And it's also this notion where, like for the NFL, like what do teams look for? They probably look for a quarterback that has good arm strength and good decision-making abilities. In the NHL, what are teams looking for? They're looking for goal scorers. What is the MLB looking for? They're looking for players that can hit the long ball, can drive in runs. Juan Soto, one of the best hitters. It wouldn't be a crazy thing to say that Juan Soto is one of the best hitters to ever do it by the end of his career. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., not going to say that for him, but he's going to be one of the best hitters for a long time in Major League Baseball. And teams are always going to pay for that bat. If you're still on Blue Jays, you're always going to pay for that defensive premium. But we've seen it throughout the league that teams are going to prioritize that generational hitter, that guy that can drive in runs in clutch situations and big situations against the best players in the world. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has proven that he can do that time and time again. So I think no matter what, even if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. doesn't necessarily have this unbelievable season, there's still going to be this massive market for a 26-year-old that is one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and he's going to get his money. You're absolutely right. He's going to get his money. Somebody will pay him. Somebody is out there that will pay him, if it's the Red Sox or the Yankees or whoever it might be. So if the Blue Jays fight for him, they fight for him. If not, they won't. And we'll be dealing with the fallout of that next offseason. But Carter, let's get into some spring training stuff. So that's the Vlad of it all. Again, we could argue this and talk about this for days because of just how insane the numbers are. Let's talk about some of the guys and the team that we have in front of us right now moving into this season, and who's doing well, who's not. There also is some stuff going on that makes you think about who's going to fit in this lineup. So we'll get into all that coming right up. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Like I said, I'm not a huge basketball guy, but every year March Madness comes around, and I'm like, you know what? I'm picking a team and I'm riding it. Let's just see how far the bets can take me. I know when NFL kicks back off, we'll be getting into that. Baseball regular season, I am all over that, betting on the Blue Jays, even though they sometimes do hurt me. NHL is, coming to their season end shortly. So NHL playoffs, all of that, I will be looking to bet on. And the bonus bets do make it even easier. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Carter, let's kick things off with some spring training news. I would just want to start it here. Bo Bichette, hat tips to him. He's looked exceptional. I have loved what I've seen from Bo Bichette. So I had to do a little hat tips, give him his flowers, because, I feel like, again, with all the Vlad stuff going on and the injuries and the New York Yankees falling to pieces, Bo Bichette sometimes gets a little overlooked. So hat tips to him. Great spring training so far. We'll see if he can carry it over into the regular season.
And I think the narrative is finally starting to switch. It's finally starting to catch that, hey, Bo Bichette might be how he was in 2023, 2022, and 2021. That is the Bo Bichette that we might be able to be accustomed to once again in 2025. It absolutely blows my mind how people were thinking the other way, that Bo Bichette is just not a good MLB baseball player anymore. Again, you can go out and say, fine, maybe he won't lead the AL in hits. Again, I'm not saying it's a crazy take to go out and say that even. I think Bo Bichette is going to be that good for the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025. That's one thing that me and you have definitely been on the same page about, is that we did not expect Bo Bichette to miss a stride going into this 2025 season. It is spring training. I get that. But it's awesome to see Bo Bichette launch baseballs into oblivion, even if it is in spring training.
Yeah, we might have to see that in your bold predictions / the hot takes episode with Dallin Wilton, Skylar Peters coming up. Is maybe you throw that as one of your bets for the season or something. Bo Bichette to lead the league in hits or lead the AL in hits or something like that. A lot of that coming up as well for you guys. So stay tuned. Just the Monday, Tuesday before spring training ends, so before the regular season begins. So make sure you guys tune in for that episode, Carter. I guess, where do you want to go next? Do you want to go and talk about, obviously, I think we touched on Scherzer last episode. He's been outstanding. What other guys right now are you looking at that are sort of really blowing you away? I mean, you could start with some of the younger guys. Alan Roden has been absolutely unbelievable. Alejandro Kirk, another guy that I've talked about that I said is my huge bounce back candidate. I'm not going to say, maybe I will. Screw it. Alejandro Kirk, I'm saying, is going to be an all-star this year. I think him getting all the playing time, he is going to be a catcher to look out for. I think, again, maybe not the highest OPS of all time. I think he's going to be a slap single, get on base type of hitter. And honestly, if that's what we're getting from Alejandro Kirk, I am more than thrilled with that.
This might develop into just another horrific situation for the Toronto Blue Jays. If Alejandro Kirk has a massive year, a 2022 caliber year with Alejandro Kirk, again, that contract extension coming up, if he has an unbelievable year, he's going to be one of the most vital Toronto Blue Jays to this organization. And then you're going to be in the situation where, hey, maybe you could have extended Alejandro Kirk. Saw some flashes last season. You see some flashes throughout his entire career. You're expecting him to take that step. Maybe you get a little bit of a discount before he does go off this season. Again, there's the other part of it as well. That maybe Alejandro Kirk stinks, and then you paid this guy. But again, when he's so good defensively, he's going to have some sort of value. And at the end of the day, you're not going to be paying Alejandro Kirk this, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. size extension. It's probably going to be an extension under $100 million, maybe around the $75 million range. Again, depends how long the term is. But it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with some of these situations. Another guy that's going to be like that is Daulton Varsho, who is coming up. Same thing, that contract extension. How they're going to value that defense, how they're going to value his bat. Maybe they're hoping that they get more of a 2022 Daulton Varsho, and that would drive that contract price right up. But again, these are all, I think, good things for the Toronto Blue Jays. You get a good season from Alejandro Kirk. You get a good season from Daulton Varsho. That probably means you had a fairly successful year as a ball club. But Alejandro Kirk going to be one of those guys in the spotlight. I think the season really rides on. If you don't get a good season from Alejandro Kirk, I think this offense is going to struggle a lot more than they would have if they get, more of that 2022 Alejandro Kirk. So it will be one of those guys that kind of makes or breaks the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and we could talk about Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Anthony Santander all the live long day, but at the end of the day, it's not, those guys don't make up your entire baseball team. It's your Daulton Varshos, your Alejandro Kirks, your Ernie Clement, who's, again, continuing to do everything I know you were really high on, and good on you, because he's been exceptional. And then some of your young guys that you're hoping are going to be good pieces off the benches, or fighting for spots, like the Allen Rodens, like hopefully again a rebound from Davis Schneider. Again, everything we've seen from him so far this spring training has been good after a pretty dud year last year. So again, is this the year of the bounce back Blue Jays? I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, I mean, why not us, right? Like, why not us? Why can't we be the team that surprises everybody and goes on that generational run? It's been long overdue. It was supposed to happen in 2021, supposed to happen in 2022, 2023. You can go down the line. This team was supposed to be a lot more successful than they have been. So why can't they shock some people, shock the doubters? A lot of people having the Toronto Blue Jays either finishing dead last in the AL East. At best, I've seen is third, not a lot of the time. And the most common one I've seen is fourth. So clearly not a lot of people are not very high on the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025. This could finally be a year that, the Toronto Blue Jays prove the doubters wrong, and we have a successful baseball team. And hopefully that can make a deep playoff run here in 2025.
Yeah, and you know what, Carter? A lot coming up from the show as well. So not just the Blue Jays, but from this podcast, we got a lot in the kitchen still for you guys. We're cooking some things up as well. The Locked On Blue Jays Fantasy League will be drafting in a few. I think it's next week or the week after. I gotta take a look. I think it's 2 Sundays from now. And so when that comes out, the one thing I want to go over, maybe we'll do like a fantasy little check-in for you guys. Hopefully Carter doesn't throw any curveballs at you to throw you off. But we will also, something I want to do is see where the Toronto Blue Jays end up falling in that draft. Again, with a bunch of Blue Jays fans, you think they're probably going to go pretty early? Or do Blue Jays fans be weary and stay away from some of their guys? We'll go into some of that. So you guys know when your fantasy baseball drafts go on, if you guys are in those, where to pick up your guys. We'll do little check-ins throughout the year. So, any cool free agents that we think you guys should look into picking up yourselves. Again, we're not going to give necessarily some of them away before we make the moves ourselves, but we'll get all that into you guys. Lots coming up. Like I said, Dallin Wilton, Skylar Peters joining the podcast for the hot takes, predictions, bold takes episode. That should be fun. It's a 2-parter that will come out. And yeah, I think, Carter, anything else that you got today before we sort of kick out of here? We got a hockey game to play tonight yet?
Yeah, March 23rd, 8 p.m. Eastern time. That is when the fantasy draft will be commencing. Going to be a fun year. In fantasy, I've never done a 20-man league. The most amount of people I've had in the league is 14, so that's going to be a little bit interesting to see how the later rounds of that draft go. But we're just excited for baseball to be back, whether it's fantasy baseball, obviously the Blue Jays being back, warmer weather in Canada, believe it or not, that is actually a thing for like 2 weeks out of the year. So we'll be excited to be looking forward to that. But other than that, just thank you guys for watching. All the likes, comments, everything recently has been appreciated. And just check out that Irv Carter interview we did yesterday. Very well spoken for a guy that's, again, younger than us. We're pretty young for the Locked On Network here. But for a 22-year-old, that guy was very good at communicating. And I'd love to see the insight you got, obviously, from a professional baseball player. But other than that, just again, thank you guys for watching. And we will talk to you guys tomorrow.